Right. So, as far as the solution architecture is concerned, when we started discussing about this from Java and J2E perspective, in the last sessions, we discussed about even authentication, authorization, different architectural styles, what are the different architectural patterns, right? So that part we have discussed. In today, I'm going to discuss about systems architecture. Because being a solution analyst, a solution architect, when we try to provide solutions for any Java and J2E applications, it's always important to have a broader understanding and idea over the enterprise architecture. Because in the last time, even I told you, because when it comes to the enterprise architecture itself is concerned, understanding about high-level understanding over the enterprise by combining, by adding, right? So business architecture, systems architecture, applications architecture, data architecture, all that. In this regard, it's always important for us to understand about the systems architecture well in advance. So being a solution architect, when we try to develop any kind of systems which are to be implemented, especially for any J2E based server-side applications and all, the major and important element one to understand about the presentation, business logic, as well as data access, all that. This must be developed and maintaining an independent layer, which majorly runs inside any kind of single Java virtual machine. At the same time, whatever the Spring framework which is to be used as a component container, which is majorly to assemble the components together, and whatever the access variable services across layers and all, everything can be built upon. In this regard, being a solution architect, when we try to understand about the kind of systems, either it can be an on-premise application or it can be a cloud applications, because now and then when we are providing solutions and all, there will be of two types. One is on-premise services are different. Cloud applications are different, because on-premise application on the premise itself infrastructure will be built on, right? So they maintain different data centers and all. Application development, deployment, using and maintenance will be done in that regard. So wherein infrastructure will be taken care of by them and management will also be taken care of. But when it comes to the cloud applications are concerned, cloud applications virtual deployment will be made. So where either it can be infrastructure services or platform services, software services can be taken. In this regard, so being into J2E architectural perspective, Java J2E solution architect perspective, it's always important for us to understand about a deep understanding about systems architecture, which majorly trying to understand about architecture triad, or at the same time the kind of extensions which are involved in it. At the same time, the kind of components are we using, followed by the third-party frameworks, all that. In this regard, so when you try to understand the first basic thing about the data access layer, right? So here we can see the first one, which is called of data access layer. Normally, this consists of all the objects which implements the data access, and at the same time hiding the details of the implementation within the tier. So next layer are we talking about is called business or logic layer, which majorly composed of all the objects which are implemented for business logic as a service. And these are available to the presentation layer and also deals with some infrastructure aspects such as caching, transactional processing, etc. The third one about data center layer. Data center layer, data carrier layer, I can say, right? So in spite of it, data carrier layer, I can call it as. So when we talk about data carrier layer, which majorly deals with the kind of objects they carry data through the systems and all that. Next one about the presentation layer part. So presentation layer part, responsible for implementation of the presentation of the logics, which majorly consists of two-tier like HTML pages, presentation services, etc. All that. In addition to the layers of the application, when we talk about, so we should able in a position to understand the kind of HTML pages, whatever were created. At the same time, understanding about the presentation service or RESTful services, like when we are creating any APIs or something of that sort, right? So whenever we try to create APIs, right? So creating some web services, either it can be SOAP, UDT, STL, right? So all these things comes under RESTful services. Followed by the RESTful services, even we have some service delegates or any kind of models or APIs which are created, followed by the kind of extensions, right? So all these things are essentially required when we are developing any kind of systems architecture while we are coming up with some solution architecture for any of the projects. So it is nothing to do with domain, okay? It is to do with technology, majorly of types, right? So either it can be J2E applications when we are developing in by implementing Spring framework into this account. Being a solution architect, when we try to understand about the kind of systems which are involved, either it can be two different things, right? So whether it can be an as-is system or it can be a to-be. As is nothing but the existing one. We need to study about the system behavior of an existing system. So that system architecture of an existing application is always needed. In connect to that, we must be having a knowledge over to-be system, whatever are we developing, about to develop. This is what we call it as target system or proposed system, right? So what is that we are proposing to develop? So these are the major understanding and major areas being a solution architect. When we try to understand about systems architecture, one must be good with. And of course, whatever I have explained with you so far are the high level point of view. But dealing with systems architecture, creating system architecture using multiple tools, like we have different tools available online, right? So either it can be enterprise architect, it can be visual paradigm, or it can be visual, right? So we have star human, right? So we have lots of tools now and then available. Using those tools and all, how these architectures can be built upon is all something being a solution architect from Java perspective, Java JT perspective, we must be knowing. So this is all about understanding over this. If you have any questions, please go ahead.